The New World Order has begun. We have our ancient future, and this is from the Beyond Lemuria deck. And I wanted to expand on this starseed idea after that last reading because I've never really sat with, like, why doesn't this idea really resonate with me? Because I think it would be cool to find out, like, ancient aliens and things like that. But it never sat quite right. And it feels like, just for me, concepts like this and similar that start to take us away from our humanity, that's where people start to lose me. Like the idea of we're spiritual beings having a human experience. I don't believe that. I believe we are painfully human. Um, Firm believer in evolution myself. Kind of look at things through an animism lens, I guess. But going forward, just seeing how chaotic of a state that this rugged Western individualism has brought us to, I think a lot of us are craving community, and it's going to take some effort to build that, to work through a lot of the wounds that have been created through various forms of dehumanization, especially when it comes to like othering and the way people speak about women, other marginalized groups. So there's quite the task ahead of us. But I think myself and many others have certainly reached the conclusion that what we're doing isn't working. And on the dice roll, actually, I got another double roll, which is odd how often that's been happening. That's like the third one. I got Virgo and the sixth house, and then the sun. So that speaks to systems being like up front and center. So we'll start getting some cards out and see where we need to begin alchemizing, because this is the alchemy deck. Start processing some things. Some karma. Okay, yeah. Just on the heels of that big Mars-Saturn conjunction in Aries. And here we have Saturn again. So a lot of wounding to process, a lot of lessons. I think pulling back the veil is a big part of this. A big part of what a lot of us are seeing as the clock chimes there. Because in the online discourse, I am seeing a lot of men starting to speak up and say, like, oh wait, it actually does make sense for women to just assume we're a problem first, and then we have to prove that we're safe because, oh my god, they're getting murdered at, like, remarkable rates. So it's starting to, like, the wheels are starting to turn on the things that women were talking about in the background, getting called hysterical or paranoid for. It's starting to come to the forefront. And I think it's a really big, uncomfortable reckoning for a lot of us. And everybody's on a different point in that timeline. So what about Saturn? That came right out. Ten of Cups. Lord of Perfected Success. The Hermetic Tarot. And interesting, the Saturn card, they've got Pisces on the palm there, and then this is a Mars and Pisces card. Huh. That's an interesting association for the Ten of Cups, too. Ultimate happiness. Sometimes referring to family, happiness. But in motion, this could be one of those big pivotal moments, like, look, if we're gonna change course, like, we gotta make that turn. And celestial speaking, it's a good time to do that, with Uranus moving back into Gemini, because it did that like retrograde back into Taurus, and now it's moving back forward for the rest of the 7-year cycle, I think, something like that. So big revolutionary energy taking that turn. So what else about that? Oh, more sideways. So a lot of in motion. Five of Wands and Three of Cups. Lord of Strife and Lord of Abundance. Now this could speak to moving past... how do I want to phrase this? A more frivolous part of your life. Like, no shade. Anything like that. Spend your time how you want. But maybe a examining of your priorities, how you want to be spending your time, you know, the limited time that none of us know when it's running out. Do you want to spend it in a bar? Or do you want to spend it, I don't know, hiking, volunteering, doing whatever it is that you do, painting, something. Because I just heard recently from it was on another reader's channel, an interesting interpretation of, oh, it was the Five of Cups. This is the Five of Wands. But I'm going to go with that anyway, since that's what was coming up. But the Five of Cups, there's, I think, 3 spilled over, and then 2 in the background. And that is speaking to, they've lost the taste for wine. It's like the addiction has reached its peak, and there's just no luster to it anymore. And they're grieving like what their life has become. That Three of Cups, that community that maybe enabled them, that they spent their time with people that really don't care about who you are as a person. You're just a sounding board, or I don't know, another person to share the table with. It's really, it makes you feel like a cookie cutter. Like my presence isn't truly relevant here. I'm just like an avatar for them to talk to themselves, like to hear the sound of their own voice, basically. But Five of Wands is conflict, strife. Leaving those things behind can cause a lot of tension, a lot of friction. Maybe even false concern. Like when you're trying to separate from a group something because you know it's not healthy for you anymore. But then like there will be like chitter chatter in the background that, oh, they're so different, they're this and that, and when really what it is they're improving their habits. They're making choices that are healthier for them. But that doesn't get not only just like contextualized, but recognized, I think, in some cases. Like it would be astonishing to the other side of the table that like, wait, what, you don't want to hang out with me? not to be mean, but no. Have you seen me around lately? Like, not trying to be a jerk or anything, but where have I been? Have I been to any events recently? No? Like, maybe we should just leave well enough alone. People grow apart. It happens. They start making different choices. I think a big life event for that is like having a kid. Then your social circle is going to drastically change. Because I would imagine you want to hang out with like other parents, going to share that experience of raising a tiny human and like sharing information, because you can't as one person know everything. You learn more by spending time with community, by other people going through the same thing, of being able to empathize with each other. So leaving someone's behind, because maybe if we don't, maybe that's a Saturnian lesson. The cost could be the 10 of Cups, like whatever that is for you, that peak of happiness. So what's keeping that Saturn energy in place? Because the energy still feels sticky, and I don't know if that's just, I don't know, it's like the gears of a clock all getting in the right place is kind of what it feels like. Like it's almost there, but it's not quite right. Oh, Uranus. It was in reverse. Huh. And another Mars. So it's not quite in place yet. Like we're 6 days out? Because I think Saturday, 26th, is when it goes fully direct in Gemini. Must have heard me talking though. So maybe something big is happening on Saturday? I don't know. And I don't know if it'll necessarily be visible, although it feels like there's a lot visible going on right now. There's also some interesting astrology as to how this relates to like world leaders and stuff, and yeah, there's a lot out there on this topic, both between, because I like Chani Nicholas, and there's also the astrology podcast if you want the real, like, the deep dive and the historical retrospective. I really enjoy those. What do we need to know about Uranus? I like that stained glass being hit, almost like, it's almost like the Tower card with the lightning. And stained glass, that immediately brings to mind like a church. Shattering like traditional ideas of how to approach religion, faith, things like that. And that's one of the reasons omnism appealed to me. You know, there's truth in all faiths and no one ultimate truth. And then to that end, it's inherently doctrineless, just being that succinct. But it's one of the things that it really appeals to me about the Universal Life Church, that they're non-denominational, and it's also similarly simple like that. It's do that which is right and freedom of religion. that sums it up. And I've been ordained with them for like 8 years now. Two of Cups in reverse. Lord of Love. So yeah, breaking up with those traditional ideas. Because I feel like people kind of laugh at Universal Life Church. Because like, oh, you can get ordained online. Like, who cares? Like, it's a legal document that, from where I'm sitting, protects my First Amendment rights. I don't walk around with the title like Reverend or anything like that because I'm not doing any of those duties or anything similar. It's just I have that attachment to an institution and I'm free to explore my own personal journey under that umbrella, like as I see fit. And they've got materials on their website, like from all sorts of different paradigms, because it's non-denominational. I think that's a pretty cool deal, actually. Gives people that protection. I think it's silly that we need it, but I'm glad we have it. Lord of Swiftness. 8 of Wands. And that flew out, which is very appropriate for this card. Mercury and Sagittarius. And Mercury is still in Aries from that stellium. Pretty sure. Those are cool wands. A lot of fire. Fiery energy. There's usually not that much fire depicted. And it kind of looks like a conflict or like a gate. Because I don't know. It's hard to see with the black and white, but there are hands holding these wands. Resistance to that change. And like heavy resistance. People don't like change. And they might have a lot to say about it. But in that kind of like false concern way. Because the Mercury and Sagittarius, like very witty communication, like a wordsmith. Like phrasing things in such a way that like would make you reconsider a major change in your life, like plant seeds of doubt, even though you know the things that brought you here aren't working. It's not sustainable. Like something needs to change. And I think we're seeing that in a lot of areas right now, too. I just saw a meme. I guess it wasn't a meme, but a little text clip, whatever. It's like my salary 10 years ago, or my salary today would have solved all my problems, my money problems 10 years ago. It's not that there isn't enough money to go around, it's that it's being, like, prosperity is being withheld from us. You know, through these various macro level forces like inflation and somehow not being able to afford universal health care, but we can just carpet bomb children just indiscriminately. And I think more and more people are becoming rightfully disgusted and shocked at actually seeing the horrors of war. because now there are cell phones in areas that would have been relegated to like journalists or military personnel, and we're getting that firsthand view that shatters the like suspension of disbelief. Because when it's an article in a newspaper or something, some degree removed from what's actually happening, not everybody has a visual mind. They might not be able to conceptualize what's occurring. It might not translate from words to pictures for them in like a meaningful way. So having just the gravity of things right in front of their face, shocking, yes. Necessary, also yes. And it's, as this transit happens, starting to see that social attitude shift to the surface of like, okay, I've worked through the dissociation of war, of seeing these really for the first time, or for the first time since 9/11. You know, that was our first like real visual for some of us. But working through that shock and then going, hey, wait a minute, why is my money paying for this? Like, I am not okay with this. And there's going to be a lot of resistance to that. Don't know if you saw the Coachella. I don't know if it was the finale. They were the closers that night, but the Strokes. That little montage they did right at the end. That was pretty cool. 10 of Swords in reverse, Lord of Ruin. And 6 of Swords, Lord of Earned Success. And lately I've been interpreting 10 of Swords. Oh, and it's a Gemini card. Gemini, Uranus. But the 10 of Swords in reverse as less the laid out on the ground and more the skewered. Being really stuck on these. But 6 of Swords, that's leaving. That's a journey forward. It's like recognizing just how broken things are. And that things have to change going forward in a revolutionary way. Because it's just not sustainable. And it's just this madness. It feels like being held hostage. Because I don't know what the perception is of Americans on the other side of the fence. But we're like screaming for help down here. It's like a constant state of dystopian dissociation of our incomes are so razor thin in these margins. We keep having to go to work because so many of us are paycheck to overdraft to paycheck to overdraft. Like, we're getting stretched thinner and thinner and thinner, and more is being asked because of things like AI, but nobody's giving more. And it's just like, how thin can we be spread before this like just snaps? I think maybe this is that moment. I don't know. The inflection point? I mean, I think we've long passed the inflection point, actually. But it's the, like, breaching the soil. Everything's coming to the surface. So what is that? The coming to the surface? what will be coming up as a result of this transit? And this might be where recognizing the need for humanity is, and I'm not saying excusing behavior in any way, shape, or form. It's more about like building community, mutual aid networks, and things like that. Because things might get tough, and the weather's doing whatever it's doing, and it's just more and more pressure being put on people. Nothing else, people might be succumbing to stress and need to take time off of work that they can't afford. Virgin's milk. I don't think I've seen this card before. It's a blue rose. Get the book. Like mother's milk, but virgin's milk? Some sort of nectar of the gods. Where is L? I don't know how to count that high in Roman numeral. Oh, there's L. There we go. In alchemy, lac virginis is a mystical substance supposedly coming from the virgin's breast. The alchemist asks, how can it be? How can milk come from one not carrying a child? That is precisely the nuanced teaching of lac virginis. When studied as an alchemical concept, it points to a lack of awareness or experience that the alchemist would rather not reveal. Yes, this milky substance is a symbol of purity and innocence, but its shadowed side is naivete and even denial. When the virgin's milk appears, discernment and honesty must be applied to the work. Is something being glossed over, rushed, or presented as perfect? There are likely complexities that need to be addressed so the alchemist can gain the maturity to handle what's next. To go deeper, watch the movie The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and to ponder patience as the remedy. So that's what's going to be brought up by the transit. A time for pause, a need for pause. Tell me a little bit more. Let me expand on this. Five of Swords in reverse and Knight of Wands. Lord of Defeat and Lord of Flame and Lightning. It's a pretty intense night. And it's definitely giving the year of the fire horse, that's for sure. And Five of Swords. So the way, let me set this down. The way these are organized on the card, they're all facing the same direction. So when it's in reverse and all the, the pommels are up and the blades are down, that's the negotiation is over. Like, this is no longer an engagement. It's done. So a period of reprieve after sorting through karma, sorting through a need for change, what needed to be changed. Because, I mean, all the stuff that I was just talking about on that macro level, those are big scope issues. It's going to need a lot of minds collaborating together on what to do. So maybe that patience and that time of reflection, a little brainstorming. Eight of Cups, Lord of Abandoned Success. Saturn in Pisces. It just seems to point to knowing that where we came from, like how we got here, brought us to these results. And if we want something different, we're going to have to do something different. Because in the Rider-Waite, that's somebody walking away from a dried up river. Like that Five of Cups that I was talking about earlier, the mistaken Five of Wands. Which it looks like might be another Saturn card. Saturn and the North Node. But just knowing how much a vice, a lifestyle, has been taking from you. And that if you truly want to leave that in the past, you must leave that in the past. But I'm still curious about this, like the contradictory. How can one have milk if one is not carrying a child? Something paradoxical. Maybe going forward, holding a greater capacity for simultaneous truths. Because there's, I think, a lot of room for that in communication skills, especially. Because we can get caught up in the defensiveness of rationalizing our mistakes and things like that. But it's holding space for, okay, sure, maybe it was an innocent mistake, but it was still a mistake that caused harm. Whatever example we want to think of. Man, the example that just came to mind was like a DUI, but like an accident that somebody else gets hurt, which I wouldn't call that necessarily an innocent mistake, but it's not like they set out to harm someone. It's more like the negligence, the obvious negligence of somebody that is old enough to know better, you know. It led to that. Like they're directly responsible for harm, even if that wasn't their intent. And in order for changes to occur, we need accountability. Not only accountability, but innovation. Because there's all sorts of, how do I put this? Repeating outcomes. Like if an outcome, harm otherwise, is happening over and over and over, you can backtrack to like what led to that. Like how did this occur? What's the root cause? To try and uproot, you know, that weed. Because if you just keep clipping it, it's just going to keep growing back as the clock chimes. But when you're dealing with human behavior, and especially when you get into stuff like entitlement, which is really present in a lot of the discourse right now, that's a tough force to counter. And I don't know if it's one that we can necessarily leave behind. But how do we move forward with it then, with this detriment being present? How do we resolve paradoxes going forward? Big question. But maybe an idea where to start. So it's like knowing, where this says the negotiation is over, knowing these things aren't okay, but then what do you do about them? I think a good example of the paradox I'm trying to ground down is Minority Report. We have all these behaviors and patterns and where we can predict outcomes with alarming success. But that's like arresting them for doing something they haven't done yet, that they're likely to do. And that was a good movie. Gold. The ultimate turn lead into gold. Taking a really, really difficult situation and alchemizing it. Which that's hopefully what that big transit will help do. Help bring those difficult things to the surface in order to be addressed. It's not just a man hate, but it's women screaming from the rooftops like, we have been telling you. We've been telling you it's this bad the whole time, and you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. It's so much worse. But unless we actually look at these things, have them breach the surface and face the horror, we're not going to be able to resolve it. And I think part of what has led us to this place was the dissociation passed down from previous generations of oh, it's not polite to talk about that. Yeah, maybe with the cashier at the grocery store, but this is at home with family. I should be able to discuss anything I need to talk about. And be heard, not just not speaking while I am speaking, because that's the absolute bare minimum. You don't get a gold star for that. But it's actually facing these things, having the uncomfortable conversations that nobody wants to have. I don't know, the way that AI gets used right now, it bothers me that it's just being used really lazily for simple tasks that, why are you offloading this? But the AI that we have right now, it's an LLM, a large language model. So it's just scraping from the content that is on the internet, and not just AI slop, stealing people's artwork, things like that. But I mean data, statistics, things like that. I feel like it'd be relatively easy to compile what do these things look like at the national level? Whatever question is on your mind in terms of misogyny, how many women are affected by something, how many men are affected by something, but it can compile all that data much faster now, and so we can paint a much more clear picture faster at a larger level. That's something I've noticed. I guess it's a criticism. Criticism and, like, dare I say, almost a diagnostic thing. Like my ability to look at things through a macro view. It seemed like something that was always discouraged. And pattern recognition in large scopes and things like that. And that I get, what is it, the strong sense of justice. Like all those things combined, like normally I think they get lumped into autism. I have complex PTSD. Those have a lot of the crossover there. And I don't know, I can't help but I get kind of stuck on that, like, who really benefits from those being a negative? From where I'm sitting, it's people doing something wrong. And that prevents us from turning the lead into gold. It's not like a personal attack on people who are doing things that are bad, that result in harm. There's a problem. We're just trying to resolve it. And this clinging on to the status quo is preventative to that. I don't know. I think AI got released into the wild way too early, before it was well thought out and environmental impacts were considered, and yeah. We've got the moon, ruler of flux and reflux, two of wands, lord of dominion, and seven of wands, lord of valor, and that's in reverse. Oh. This is like, gosh, what do I want to say here? Because the moon is hidden. It's secrets, like under the cover of night. It's like somebody trying to control you to prevent change, like to keep your boundaries down. It's that Lord of Dominion. Control your forward movement. And whether that's literal or like your movement of thought, healing progress, things like that. But it's like to prevent this turning lead into gold. Because people really don't like it when the systems of control are challenged. Well, I don't like being controlled. Like, why do you get your way? I don't like that. Because your way means I get controlled. My way means, like, yeah, you're kind of mad, but you don't get to control people. Be mad about it. I cannot say that I really care that much. Especially when the outcome trying to be protected is harm. There's some connection. That's what I was thinking about right as that started chiming. This paradox. Revealing a true nature? Because that's kind of lurking beneath the surface here, you know, dealing with an addiction, and if you don't, it could cost you the 10 of Cups. Leaving something behind because it's no longer viable. That could be revealing the true nature of someone, something, a system. That's big themes right now. Systems. Oh, and there's that Mars in Aries. And this actually kind of has both the sun and the moon, because the scarab be representative of Kepri, the morning sun, the Egyptian god. And that's that rebirth energy. Birthing the new, the transformed. But it's like there's something going on in the background that is like attempting to be an impediment to progress. I don't know. I think I'll dig into that a little bit more in the next reading, the behind the scenes maybe. Because I feel like that's going to be its own thing. Which I imagine you probably already know about. That there's just something going on. So lots of celestial movement right now. Stay grounded. Drink your water. All those things. All those good stuff. Take breaks as needed, as you're able. And if you know you're on your authentic path, you are following your truth, separating from a vice, from a group, pursuing some sort of revolutionary change in your life, and someone's doing something shady, like false concern, something like that, anything to try and knock you off your path, just keep your eye on that gold. That turning that lead into gold. You know what you want. People can get real tricky about trying to keep others in place. Maybe it makes them look at themselves and what they haven't healed. Oh, any X-Men. I like these movies. And the show. I was actually just thinking about the, what is it? Apocalypse? That one? I haven't seen that in a little bit. That's a rebirth vibe, the phoenix. But it also has that, like, the destruction to the rebirth kind of fitting in line with how these cards came out. So I like that one, but any of them, something to kick back, prevent the doom scrolling. You know, I'm trying to train myself to, like, not have a little dopamine machine as an extension of my person. Because I feel a little attached to it, and I'm trying to get it away from me a little bit. Something to keep your mind occupied. But overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates, and if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.